Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage, where we are going to discuss the diagnosing of a transmission leak today. So what are the first things that we will need? We're going to need a few supplies. I like shop towels, the paper towels. Those are fantastic. They're super absorbent, way better than regular paper towels. They are expensive, about $2 to $3 a roll, but they last a long time, so I never worry about it. I also like gloves if I'm dealing with either dirty parts of the car, which is pretty much everything, or fluids in particular. These nitrile covered breathable gloves are probably my favorites, just because otherwise you get all sweaty inside the glove. Otherwise I'll use these if I'm just undoing a bunch of bolts and banging on things. I want to protect my knuckles and breaking fingernails and getting everything all nasty dirty. Then, because I'm a little bit older, I like a pair of, not prescription, but reader style shop glasses. Keeps the dust and crap out of my eyes and also lets me see what I'm looking at. And then finally, I love a good light. And in particular, I love this light from Harbor Freight. You can get it on sale usually. It's great because it's magnetic, so you can stick it on the side of things and it'll stay. It has a bendable head, etc. All right, so let me get my glasses and gloves on and we will get under the car and I'll tell you what was going on. So let's see here. Alrighty, so I have the car jacked up off the ground, and anytime you jack up a car and get underneath it, you want to make sure that you put it on jack stands for safety purposes. And I am not joking around when I say this. Jacks can fail, even if there's nothing wrong with them. Sometimes they'll just go down, and I've had them do that on me, which is no big deal because I had jack stands underneath. And then because it's jacked up at this point, I can also use my handy dandy creeper cart right here. And then I can slide under pretty easily, so let's do exactly that. Alrighty. So first thing I noticed was in my driveway about a couple weeks ago, I saw a puddle of fluid underneath the car, and it was pretty far back, so I figured it was transmission. Had a look at it. It looked a little pinkish red. Pink could be coolant, but it wasn't far enough up here, and I have no coolant leaks. And oil tends to be black. Even if you've put it in and it's that nice tan color to begin with, after you run the car for a while, it goes black just from the carbon. Now, I have drained this pan so you can see the red fluid that has come out already. But if you see at the front here of the pan, there is some residue that's, here, let me stick my handy dandy light somewhere. There we go. So this residue right here, let's see if I can point to it. Yep, this residue on the front was there. And then there's some residue here as well on the transmission bell where the fluid was leaking. And first thing I always do is smell fluid. And in this case, this fluid is sweet smelling and had a reddish tint, which is usually transmission fluid. And anytime you change out your transmission fluid, for example, I'm going to go ahead and pull the pan and put a new filter on, you want to check and make sure that the fluid doesn't smell burned, because if it's burned, then you've got problems inside, and in that case, I would go talk to a transmission specialist. All right, so I start looking, I'm seeing maybe there's a little leak on the head gasket there, but as I said, it wasn't oil. I've got some fluid on the bottom of the starter, so that's coming from somewhere, but this part of the bell's dry where the starter goes into, so no fluid's coming out of there. If I roll up to the front here, I'm seeing normal, just kind of dirt and grossness, nothing really big. But then I got up here to this bottom transmission coolant line, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's fluid all over it, and it's really wet. And usually wet means that there's an active leak. And then I went up here, and you can see kind of on that pipe there, it's really wet as well. And where it goes into, I don't know if you can see it from here, you can, it's not behind this radiator pipe right here, but from the top down where this connects in, it's also leaking. So basically what the diagnosis of this problem is, the bottom or lower transmission coolant line. So that's running transmission fluid from the transmission itself. There's a line that runs all the way from there up to the front into your radiator to cool that fluid off to protect your transmission, then runs it back. And in this case, the O-rings on the connectors, you can see one way up there. There's the upper line. Those connectors go bad after 100,000 plus miles, and I've got 131 on this vehicle. And so pretty inexpensive. The connectors are $8 each. I'll need one for the radiator and one for the transmission itself. What's a pain is getting that line out because it's all a single line, and I'll have to pull it apart and then pull it out, put a new one in. It'll probably be half a day or more, but they'd probably want $500 or more to do that, and I can do it for about $40. So it's why I like doing it myself. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and pull the pan and clean it out and put new fluid and a filter in there too. And this puppy will be up and running as soon as I can get my parts and do some labor. That is it. So that was me diagnosing the transmission leak. And in fact, you can see up there where it goes into the transmission itself, it's also got a bunch of fluid and dirt all around it, and that's what's actually dripped down onto this pan. So I don't think actually that the gasket is bad, although I'll be replacing it anyway. I do believe that it is the lower transmission line at both ends, both the transmission housing and the radiator. So we're going to replace those. All right, hope that's helpful. Thanks. Bye.